Good morning, 1 Million Cups crowd. How is everybody? Okay, I got a good from Kyle. Kyle's good. If you could, grab some coffee, grab a seat. We'll get started here shortly. I'd like to welcome everybody to 1 Million Cups. Do we have any first-timers in the house? Raise your hand. We've got a couple. Thank you for being here. I guess I should introduce the organizers. So to my left, this is Kyle. I'm John, Tyler, Kaylin, Nicole, Courtney. And we also have some expert panelists, Melissa and Lawrence today. If you guys could please introduce yourselves.
Good morning, Lawrence Andre, coach with the John Maxwell team. Extremely fascinated in the teams that it takes to co-found and start these companies. You'll probably find me ask some questions on that area.
Hello, Melissa Saubers. I'm Chief Connector and CEO of CoWork Waldo, and also the president of the Kansas City Co-working Alliance.
Thank you for being here. And a quick reminder, if everybody could take out your phones and check in on the 1 Million Cups app, we would appreciate it. That way you can see more about the presenters, leave them feedback afterwards. We would appreciate it. And without further ado, we're going to get started with Tim from Rivet Design Group. Big round of applause for Tim.
Hi, my name is Tim Peterson. Can you hear okay? Yes, sir. Okay. I live in Shawnee, and I've been in the apparel business for a long, long time. Ever since I graduated from the University of Nebraska, I went immediately into the apparel business. It had nothing to do with my degree, but I have been on all sides of apparel throughout the years, from importing to having my own stores to being buyers, to being a buyer for stores. About 3 years ago, I was tired of traveling and I decided to design some of my own leather coats. And I was very fortunate to show a jacket to Harley Davidson that they loved, and the rest is history. I did Harley Davidson jackets for 2.5 to 3 years. While I was doing that, there was I called on all the stores in corporate. I realized there was a real need for better leather gloves, which amazingly, there's a lot of gloves out there, but there's a lot of stuff that's not very good. I discovered at the time a leather out of Pakistan that was better than anything I'd ever been involved with. And I thought, you know what, I want to bring this to the U.S. and see what's out there. That was 3 years ago. To this day, I have still never seen anything like this. Most leather, or a lot of people think that most leather is waterproof. If you've ever ridden a motorcycle, do we have any motorcycle riders at all? One of the worst things that happens, your hands get wet. The water soaks right through, and then your hands become stiff. Same thing with firefighters, same thing with farmers, ranchers, anyone. If it's a waterproof leather, it usually has Gore-Tex in it, which is the membrane inside. It's really not the leather. Well, I discovered this leather that has been tested for 40 to 50 hours. And so I went to Pakistan. I put a deal together. A lot of the things that he was doing were top-notch for some of the best people in the world. His biggest customer is the German Army. So from a quality standpoint, I've never seen anything that's better. He does the biggest motorcycle company out of Japan. He does Portugal. One of his other companies that he does a lot of military and law enforcement with is a company out of, can you see that? Is out of Germany. And they manufacture a catalog of which we do all of their gloves and bags. It's printed in 5 different languages. So they're very extensive as to what they do. So I started putting a line together with motorcycle gloves, and it expanded into several different things. There's military, there's law enforcement, work gloves, work in Western. there's so many needs for this type of product, and if you're a farmer, there's nothing worse than having a glove that's bad. People do appreciate better quality on stuff. These are new snowmobile and ski gloves. And one of the things that happened, this is a mechanic's glove, which I can name drop anything from the ASI market or for companies that want to do something like that, UPS, FedEx, whatever. I ran into a fellow that told me about a fabric out of Texas that just had a new patent on it. It's called Diamond Down. Diamond Down is made of a carbon fiber. They make long underwear and they make socks. This is cotton and carbon fiber. It's been tested to be one of the warmest long underwear in the country. The Navy SEALs are using this right now. The fellow that has this has a patent on it, and because of my expertise in the apparel business, I am going to be manufacturing this for him, as well as in Europe. We have the entire world at our feet. I mean, he has big people interested in doing this, but he's trusted me to manufacture this product both domestically for the military and overseas for whomever. He has one other product. Backing up, that's one reason I did the ski gloves, because I figured if you have a waterproof glove and you have the warmest liner inside of this, it's got to be a home run. And if you go online and you look for ski gloves, there's nothing to compare it to. You don't have to have all these layers and stuff to keep your hands warm. Now you can put on a glove that's flexible and be able to use it without doing that. He has one other product that, again, the patent was just finished at the end of June. And by the way, you can go online and check out diamonddown.com. This will tell about the products that he does. He's got about 7 or 8 different patents, but this is one of the latest that he has. He also, there's one other thing that he does with this fabric. He makes socks out of it. These are socks for diabetics. And the carbon fiber and also the long under, for some reason, it's incredible. He's got tests from all over the country, all the hospitals and a lot of the colleges down south that have verified this, tested this out, and sees what it does for diabetics. And so we also manufacture that in a different way, which I will be doing both here and overseas as well, because there are diabetics all over the world. The last thing that he has is a fabric that is a fire retardant fabric. And I don't, do any of you know what Nomex is? Okay. Nomex is a fire retardant. They kind of own the world. They're owned by DuPont. He has just had this product okayed by NASA as the best product they've ever had, and we're now making shirts and jumpsuits and different types of apparel for NASA as well. And I think this is just unbelievable because it does test out better in fires. It's for oil workers, it's for anyone around electricity, it's for all firemen wear it, the military uses it, all pilots wear it, and it's to keep from getting burned in case of a flash fire or anything. So this has a lot of uses over here. And those are the things I'm working on. I do have some gloves and I have some jackets over on this table if anyone is interested. And one other thing that I forgot to mention is along with waterproof leather, we also do fire retardant leather. This glove is done for the German Army, and it's fireproof as well, or fire retardant as well as waterproof. Motorcycle gloves, carbon knuckle fibers. I mean, we do the technology that we have is right at the top. So that's it. That's what I have.
Big round of applause for Tim.
Tim, you know your stuff. This is an area that you've been, the industry is complicated for those that don't know the clothing industry, and you've been all around it. You know
Lot
your
of sides
stuff.
to it.
You know it. You know what you're doing here. How long, when did you launch Rivet? I didn't hear that. How long has Rivet been a business?
About a year and a half.
Year and a half. And you told me before the session that there's a second person. You have a second person in the
Yes, I do
business.
have a person that has helped me with some marketing and so forth that is an IT person. I am not I'm a designer. I look for opportunities. I design, that's not my forte. When it gets to a computer, it's like, watch out.
And what you clearly have an ability to find opportunity. I mean, you know the industry, you have the eye for it, you know where to find the opportunity. What I'm really interested in is where you want to go with Rivet, because here if I was looking to invest in this space, I see a guy that really knows what he's doing. I see a guy that knows the marketplace, but I see a need for a team around this person. Because
true.
you're not going to get anywhere. You may have a nice little side business by yourself. Where are you looking to go? How quickly do you want to expand the team? And are you looking at maybe dollars to help make that work, or are you just wait until you get sales before you expand the team?
Yes to all of it. No, and I'm being facetious, but the thing that has held me back is that it does take money to do this. And I also know my strengths and I know my weaknesses. And the IT stuff, the marketing stuff, that's not what I'm good at. I'm good at sales and opportunities. So I do need to surround myself with people that know what they're doing. And I've been very impressed by being here and hearing comments that people have. They know what they're doing, and I'm taking it all in.
I mean, you can really simplify this. Let me ask you a much more direct question then. Really, the next step is, it can be simplified to either you're trying to get the sales so you can invest that back in and basically bootstrap and grow this, or you can go look for the investment to allow you to grow the people, which will then allow you to be more aggressive on the sales front. Is there one of those paths that more interests you?
Probably the second right now.
Okay.
Because I have contacts. I have people waiting for this. I have the fellow that I work with in Pakistan. What we want to do is we will export this yarn, the carbon yarn, overseas. He will knit it into fabric, and we will manufacture the garments there. And the same process goes on here in the U.S. So I hate to be all over the board, but this does have a huge opportunity for somebody, but I am, financially strapped with where I am, and I need to move forward.
Sometimes as entrepreneurs, we get beat up so much by being all over the board, and I think sometimes we just need to say it's okay. That's who we are and how we're built, and let's not beat ourselves up too much.
Okay, so great product. My husband owns a roofing company, so I could totally see him using this product, yeah. I know he has issues with his gloves. So a couple questions. Where is your distribution right now? Have you already started selling?
I have one customer right now. And backing up a little bit, when this product first came out, I did manufacture some gloves, and I put them in probably half of the motorcycle stores in the Midwest, probably 30 or 40 of them, that weren't supposed to do it, but did it because they knew me, I was a sales rep. So this was tested in these stores, and they found out what this stuff did. What was your other part of your question?
Just distribution, where your distribution is.
I have one customer that I'm working with right now, and I started last fall. That's U.S. Post Office.
Okay, and then what's your next step for distribution? Are you selling online, or are you just trying to?
No, I do all my business with them. Many people don't know it. The U.S. Post Office is bought out of Kansas City for the entire country. And I've been manufacturing custom gloves for them. I just did one glove for them to test it last year, and we sold somewhere around 15,000 pair of gloves.
So is that one of your next steps, is to figure out distribution, kind of what your sales strategy is?
Yeah, but I kind of have to back into it. For example, I have the opportunity, kind of backing into your question, I have the opportunity to work with one of the biggest ski companies in the world. But this takes a trip to Ogden, Utah to do it. But these people are worldwide. And a few years ago, or a couple of years ago when I first started this, I was thinking in terms of, having warehouse and having inventory there and the old standard way of doing it. But because I've been strapped financially to do that, which takes a lot of money for inventory, I've started looking at it differently and thinking, I'd almost rather manufacture for people, go to them with product that they do not have. And that's the case with the ski gloves. I looked at it and I said, there's nobody that is doing this.
Okay.
So,
And then marketing-wise, I guess that would kind of, so it sounds like you want to be the middle person between the patent holder, the product, the actual innovation, I guess.
yes,
And then sales. So you kind
exactly.
of want to be in between there trying to facilitate
The
those.
fellow that has the patents is he worked for Dow Chemical for 20 years. He knows fabrics like you would not believe. And in fact, when I talk to him, it's scary because I'll ask him a question and he'll start talking in molecules. It's like, whoa,
Yeah.
So, but he's not a marketing guy.
Right.
He has some very big people that are interested in doing this right now with him. And he just bought his factory back that he had 10 years ago. He just purchased this back. He'll produce the fiber right there. And that's the key to a lot of this stuff.
So maybe a next step for you would be just to think about who, what, when, where, how, just kind of outline, just ask those questions of yourself,
I honestly, I have done that.
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
tried to keep
so-
this very simple, but I have
Yeah,
spent
so-
2 years thinking about this.
Yeah, exactly. So then you'll know what your next step is for
Right.
distribution.
But I do
Yeah.
need the people around me
Yeah.
that's what they do. That's what they're good at.
Yeah, to figure out the ideal customer and go forward. I'm sure you figured all of that out by now.
I hope so. I hope
All
so.
right, thanks.
All right, we're going to open it up to audience questions. So if you have a question, please raise your hand. I think we have the first question down front.
Hi, Sam. Great ideas you talked about. Looks like you're really good at finding unique products that solve particular problems. The breathable leather, the insulating fabric, I can't remember what it was called, and now this Nomex replacement. So on the website, it seemed like you present your company as a design group. So I took that to mean someone comes to you and says, I want a jacket, I want a glove, I want a whatever, and you design it for them. But you also do the production, it sounds like, or you subcontract, because I'm assuming you don't have production facilities yourself.
No.
Okay. So you really are the middleman. But do you concentrate on finding solutions that use these three technologies? Is that like the niche that you're in?
Well, that's part of what I want to do. I mean, I know who to go to that are very interested in these products and use a lot of them. And if I have a new product that's better than what's out there, I'm hoping that people will recognize that. And this isn't just word of mouth. This is, the testing that's been done, the people that are backing up what's being said. As far as the design side of it, I have designed personally, but for example, Harley Davidson, they design their own codes. And they have many people that do this, so we're just following what they do. One of the fella that has done the jackets for me out of India, I've known for over 20 years, and he has manufactured for Calvin Klein, for Timberland, for you name it in the Ralph Lauren. I mean, he knows his way around.
So in the case of Harley, for example, you somehow sold them on the idea of a jacket made of waterproof leather.
No, not exactly. The leather, they don't have a waterproof leather. And the reason for it was when I said to them, I showed the first jackets that I did were not waterproof. I discovered this later on. I said, you want to look at this? And the buyer says, we can't buy out of Pakistan. And I said, why is that? They said, because the people in our office, they travel to these places.
Yep. Excuse me?
Got one over here to your left.
Hello. Yeah. I want to learn a little bit more about your experience doing business international and specifically with Pakistan. I don't hear that country being, in business very often. So what's your, and you're one of the few people who actually traveled there. So what's your experience?
I mean, I've been to Pakistan one time. I went to the factories. I've met with these people. I've been dealing with this fellow for 2 to 3 years now. He stuck with me. He says, you have U.S., you have North America. Now I have become as important to him as he is to me, because now I can give him merchandise. I can give him the Diamond Down. I can give him the products that I have discovered here in the U.S. So it's kind of a collaboration of both of them. We're good for each other. But he produces for the best people in the world. And what I was starting to tell this gentleman right here is when I asked Harley, why don't you want to go to Pakistan? They've been in the leather business for over 400 years. And he said, it's dangerous for their buyers to travel. I said, okay, I'll buy that. I'm not worried about that. But I said, so I want to make sure that you don't think it's quality. And he said, oh no, they're fabulous. And they are fabulous. But any country you design or that you manufacture in can do good stuff and they can do bad stuff. It all depends on what your requirements are. If you only want the best, you may have to pay a little bit more, but you get the best. So when I hear people say, oh, that's made in China, I just sort of chuckle because they make fantastic stuff, but they make cheap stuff. And everyone has this misconception about certain countries that, oh, it's junk, and that's not true.
Question over here.
Yes.
First off, I've got several things to say. First is a comment. Congratulations on this product and doing that. I think it's really, really good, and it definitely sets a good standard. I like the fact how you start from the bottom, now you're there. And yeah, I took that line from a song. The question I have, besides the firemen, electrical workers, welders, oil field workers, military and pilots, who are the customers, who are the customers that you're dealing with right now, and who are the customers you're trying to shoot for current, long term?
The last thing, the New Cotton or the New Guard, which is called, he got the patent at the end of June, so this is brand new. But it's been in the testing stages with a lot of different people. The largest mattress company in the U.S. just, they want to buy fabric with this because children's clothing, mattresses, all this stuff I'm just going to hold it. All this stuff has to be tested and approved for flammability. All of this stuff has to be approved for flammability. And I met a gentleman about 2 months ago, and I was talking to him about this, and he didn't tell me where he was. And I won't mention even the company, but they build power plants all over the world. And he said, is this fabric breathable? And I said, I don't know. But I said, I'll call this afternoon, I'll find out. So I called Dr. McCullough. I said, listen, I have somebody who's a big user that uses a lot of Nomex in everything they do. And he said, if it is breathable, you are onto something you have no idea. Because people do not like to wear Nomex. It is breathable, but it's hot. Military people do not like it. They wear it in Afghanistan, they wear it in these places. Firefighters, it's a very hot product. Race car drivers, they wear it, to protect themselves from getting burned. Ours is much more breathable, and we have the tests to prove it. So there's a lot of blue sky up there, and it's just getting it to people. Now, you're not going to convince everybody. If they're happy doing this, there's nothing you can say or do, And maybe it's a price concern. Maybe it's people are lazy and say, no, we're okay with this. We're not going to change. But hopefully there'll be certain people that want the best.
I'm impressed with your line of products, but I am struggling a little bit with your brand identity. Are you designing products for people who work hard and play hard?
Yes. I mean, when you talked about motorcycle gloves, that's an area that I do know very well because I was in that business for a long time and called on stores. Those are people that play hard, you know, but they also want to protect their hands, and in the spring and fall, you know, it gets very cold when they're riding, and it's not only protection, it's to keep your hands flexible, you know. So, but for like work gloves and those types of things, those are people that are using this stuff every day, and they want full protection, you know. And a lot of companies demand. This fellow told me, he says, every one of our people that we have out here have to wear these gloves. So he said, if you have something different, I want to know. And I won't say the number that he gave me, but it was, wow. You know, and this is just one company, so it's out there, it's just going to them. And the way I would plan to do this is a lot of these things are done at trade shows now, where you've got to demonstrate. You know, you can call forever and try and get appointments with people, and it just doesn't work the way it used to. And now you have to know someone that can get you in, or that, you know, somehow you've got to get to them. And that's the type of stuff that I want to concentrate on. I'm doing it.
Question here on your right. So big picture, how big is the leather market? And then also, does leather continue to be a popular material? I would think as people start to worry about sustainability and stuff that maybe folks are getting nervous about leather.
No, leather is huge. I mean, it's everywhere. The one thing about leather, most people are willing to pay a little bit more for leather because they think this is a coat I'll have forever, as opposed to a fabric coat or a wool coat or something. I don't mean to sound chauvinistic, but women love leather coats, and it's a fashion item to them. This is not just, oh gosh, I want the warmest coat in the world. This is fashion. So it has its ups and downs, but it's always going to be there. And you know, and I have the ability to do leather different places just depending on what people's needs are.
All right, final question. What does we as a community do to help you?
I do want to mention one other thing, if that's okay.
Yeah, we'll allow it.
Okay. I had a lady call me a couple weeks ago. I'm doing some custom gloves for the prison system, and it has what's called rhino skin. It has rhino skin inside for needles. They're worried about needles in the prison system, big time. This is back in Virginia. And she says, if I buy this, if you do this, I'd be buying, you know, a rather large quantity of these gloves, which can go anywhere in the country. She also said, can you do pants? And I said, in my sleep. I've done them many times. What do you want? I want a pant for the prison system, and we would start with 30,000 pair. And she told me, I mean, she gave me a pencil drawing and said, this is what we want. This is what they want. So there are prisons in every state, you know, and it just takes one of those to actually get this thing going. I asked the lady, I said, you know, you have a law enforcement business. Are you familiar with all the other law enforcement in the country? And she said, I can push a button and it connects me with every law enforcement place. I said, why don't you take on the long underwear for me? There's 1 million people out there that in the winter need a product like this, but you have to know people and get connected with them. And it's not something I can do, you know? So I did want to throw that out there, that there's more than just leather at stake here. There's other things that I can do. To answer your question, John, I mean, basically, I'm kind of at a standstill with all these opportunities, and if any of you know people that are interested in partnering up, or you know, people that you know that are, for fundraising and all this stuff, I would love to visit with you and see, because that's really kind of where I am right now. I've got everything else in place, and but I know the things I need to do, and it's just been hard to do it on my own without some of the backing. And a lot of this has happened in the last 6 months. I mean, it's kind of all coming to a head right now. So.
All right, thanks, Tim. Big round of applause.
All right, it is time for Mug Club. Who has been here 10 or more times? Okay, quite a few of you. So we're gonna run around with a mug. If you could tell us why you come here and a little bit about yourself.
My name's Jim Ketter. I have a small CPA firm here right off 47th Street at State Line. So it's right near the Kauffman Foundation. Worked with a number of folks in the room on their startups and worked with them on business consulting and accounting, tax, and it's a great group and they got great ideas and so we love working with them. So real happy to be here. It's a great program. Thank you.
Great to have you. All right, if you want to check out announcements, you can check it out on the app. We do have a couple live announcements today. I think Melissa has one.
Yes, hello. How many of you have been part of setting a world record? Anybody? Okay, well, I have a perfect opportunity for you. August 9th is a Wednesday, and it's called KC Co-working Day. It's a day, record-setting day of co-working, connecting, and colliding. We will be at PlexPod Westport Commons, and we'll start out with 1 million cups at 9 o'clock, and then we will set the world record for the most people co-working at one place at one time. It's a free event. We'd love for you guys to be there. Just go to kccoworking.com and go to our news and events to learn all about it and to register. Thanks.
All right, Kyle has a quick announcement as well.
If you've been around Kansas City startups for a while, you know we love celebrating entrepreneurship. So coming up in November is Global Entrepreneurship Week. We're currently crowdsourcing events. So if you would like to get your business or expertise in front of a whole bunch of Kansas City entrepreneurs, be sure to go to gewkc.org and submit your event now. Only 1 month left to submit your events. You can also grab me later if you have any questions. Thanks.
Okay, next we have Sarah Hicks with Noble Native. She has a sustainable clothing business. She's going to tell us all about that.
Good morning. You'll have to bear with me. It's been a while since I've had to do any kind of presentations. But I am Sarah Hicks, and this is Noble Native. I have been in business for just a little over a year, so I'm still kind of working on things. But a little about me. So I'm a bit of a nomad historically. I'm the oldest of 8 children, and we moved quite a lot while I was growing up. So I'm not really from Kansas City, but I've been here about 6 years. I have notes, pardon me. So for school, I have to go back to explain myself and my business. I was homeschooled until college, and then I went to college in Springfield, Missouri State. And when I graduated, I was like, okay, I gotta go do something new, gotta explore the world a little more. Went out to California right before the recession, so that's fun. So I've also worn a lot of different career hats. The nice part about that is that I have worked in a lot of different industries and been able to find where my passions were. So I've worked in everything from defense contracting to apparel manufacturing to digital product management, but again, recession. So moved back to Kansas City about 6 years ago, and I now do customer service and digital product support. But my passions were still apparel manufacturing. So how do I get into this? There's not much of that here, but I started writing a fashion blog. And so in doing that, it allowed me to meet a lot of local makers, and as you know, Kansas City is a big startup community. And so my passions really started to hone in on them and the passion that they're investing into their products. So the problem I am trying to solve is a rather large problem, and that is one of fast fashion, environmental damage caused by apparel manufacturing, and then also access to products that leave a positive impact. Fast fashion is, as you know, well, you've probably heard at least, is a really large industry. Americans, I'll just pick on Americans, I guess. We like to shop. We like to shop a lot, and we want things cheaply. So unfortunately, American manufacturers have a hard time competing with manufacturers that want to make a lot of things very quickly and cheaply, so they typically outsource those things overseas, which unfortunately comes at a human cost, because in order to make things really cheaply, that usually means that you pay your workers less, and you give them cheaper facilities, less safe conditions to work in. And then there's also the transporting to ship things internationally has an environmental impact. And you also are generally using cheaper materials that are non-biodegradable. So that $20 t-shirt is going to be sitting in a landfill at some point for hundreds of years or more. So, fun fact, on average, it takes 5,000 gallons of water to manufacture one t-shirt and a pair of jeans. That is largely due to the amount of water that it takes to not only grow the fibers, but then also process the fibers and to create the chemicals that go in to treat the fibers, and yeah, so that's a lot. Food for thought. There's a couple of different ways that I source my materials, and this is a question I get asked a lot. The sustainable clothing market is emerging. So a typical clothing buyer for a boutique usually goes to shows to find their products that they then sell. That is not as easy for me, because all of my products have to meet one of three different criteria. It either has to be sustainable, meaning that it uses environmentally friendly materials, or is made in the US, or is locally made, which would be just like within Kansas City. Usually my products meet at least 2 out of those 3 criteria. But again, it's really difficult for me to go to an apparel show and go from booth to booth and be like, all right, where do you do your manufacturing? A lot of manufacturers are like, oh, well, I do some of this here and I do some of that there. Or they don't use any sustainable materials. So I have turned to Instagram and social media to find the majority of my products, because people use hashtags, and it makes it a lot easier for me to find both of those types of qualifying products. But to expand on that, all of my products come in from one of 2 different ways: wholesale and consignment. And the great thing about consignment is that it allows me to bring in products from emerging designers that have not yet been able to scale their businesses to really meet a large market demand. So I bring in small quantities of products, most of which are still being made by them in their homes, and I give them a platform for their products. So I just wanted to introduce you to a couple of my consignment vendors. The first being Chelsea Lensing. She's actually here in Kansas City. She works for Rockin' Republic, which is a denim line. And she makes shirts and some dresses in her living room using repurposed denim and chambray. She's a zero-waste company, meaning that she uses leftover materials from other projects by other companies and then integrates them into hers. So even just like the fabric that gets cut off of a pair of jeans at the end, she uses that as trims in her shirts. And she's been doing it about a year, and so I carry 3 different styles from her, and again, she makes them all individually on her own. Second is Michelle Thompson. She is a designer that I, again, found through social media. She lives out in Portland, Oregon. She is 49, married, has 2 Dobermans, and she studied fashion at FIT in New York. She works full-time for a snowboard and skate company out on the West Coast. But her passion is of an environmental nature. She really believes in wildlife conservation due to other industries destroying our environment. And so she created an apparel line called Ferocious Love, and she donates a portion of her proceeds from the sale of her clothing to people like my customers to wildlife conservation. So Ferocious Love is a passion project for her. Not that any line from a startup designer isn't a passion project, but hers in particular is one that I also support. So further to that point, sustainable clothing, again, an emerging market. Here in Kansas City is maybe being a little cooler than I would have hoped and welcoming a sustainable marketplace. However, it is growing. Here in Kansas City, we have 2 particular stores that focus on this exclusively. Maddie Apparel, which is a sustainable and charitable women's underwear company. They do all their manufacturing here. And then the second, which is a new addition to the Country Club Plaza actually, is a company called Marine Layer. They manufacture mainly t-shirts and dresses, loungewear for men and women. And then online, there's a few more online companies that are doing this. Zadie.com and Everlane.com are 2 of them. Again, they manufacture the clothing that they sell. Let's see. How are we different? So I don't manufacture anything that I sell. I focus purely on investing in the brands and the designers that are creating the products. I want to help them reach their goals by selling those products for them. I think that's a noble cause. But so supporting dreamers is something that's really important to me. As I mentioned, all of my products meet certain sustainability criteria. This is just a few of the things I sell. One shirt is branded for myself, but another thing that's important to me is creating positive social change. I hope to create products that address things. There's a lot of messaging that's happening in our media surrounding politics or social movements, and I am really hoping to reinvest in a community that wants to create change rather than just knock other people's opinions down. So all of the purchases that happen on my website, all of our customers get an option during checkout. They get a questionnaire that offers them the opportunity to have a portion of the proceeds from their purchase be reinvested in one of a few different options. I give people the option of donating to an environmental conservancy of some sort, an education program, or as some sort of a scholarship to a design student. These charities do change, they will change over time. Again, I'm new, but those are just a few of the ways that I am trying to create a community for the people that visit or become a member of my shopping community.
Sarah, so I have to admit, when I was asked to be on the panel, I'm like, great, I love being here, I'm here all the time. And then I looked at the presenters, and there were 2 clothing presenters. And anyone who knows me knows that clothing is not my specialty. And when I looked at you, it was women's clothing. I'm like, are you kidding me? How am I supposed to look at this company? So I turned to someone I know who knows the clothing industry, and I asked her for some advice on this, who is in the industry. And she started explaining to me, And I don't know how many people in here know the clothing industry, but this thing is extremely complex. She was telling me about the manufacturing of it and the design of it and the retail side of it and the buyers who really, that's where the transaction happens in buying product for retail. And she talked about how much money it takes to get in this industry. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, how does anyone break into this industry? How does anyone even disrupt this industry? Sure, it can be done, but I have all that in my mind, and I listened to your presentation, and I can kind of see now why there's so many different directions you can go. So if others in the audience are thinking, oh my gosh, there's so much here, there really is. So what I wanted to know from you, Sarah, is you try to find your way through sustainable clothing. Is that you say it's an emerging market. I have no idea. I trust you. There's so many directions. I think the success here must be getting to the customer and understanding what the customer actually wants in this marketplace. And if anyone looks at your shop, I'm assuming you would feel the same way. There's a variety of price points, a variety of products. There's a lot of options. How are you, as a single person in this business, trying to understand and get advice from others on what the customer actually is going to want and how you move Noble Native forward?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is. So what are you doing? What have you had success with, and what haven't you maybe had success with so far?
Well, so my particular customer is, an ever growing question in my mind. But typically, my customers are between the age of 25 and 45. And they're people that are working professionals that have a little bit more money to spend, but they also have an interest in either sustainable initiatives or environmental impact in some regard. Because meeting all of these criteria, that sounds great. Everyone's like, yes, let's support American. The problem with that is that things are more expensive. My average price point is going to be a few more dollars than going to Target to pick up a t-shirt where you might spend $20, mine might be closer to $40. So what really comes into play there is twofold. A, education. If your customer doesn't understand why it's important to be willing to spend a few more dollars because of A, environmental impact, and B, the human element. I mean, Americans are not going to work for 30 cents an hour to produce t-shirts. It's just not going to happen. So, that trickles down. You've got to be willing to spend that money knowing that, no one was harmed. The earth wasn't harmed in the creation of this product. So if you're willing to take in the reasoning behind spending more on a purchase, then you're halfway there. The second thing is also translating that into the way that you spend money as a whole. Let's not, go shopping every weekend and buy 30 shirts a year or however many it is. It's let's buy less, but let's buy better.
Hello, Sarah. I have 2 teenage daughters, so I understand fast fashion. I didn't understand it before I had teenage daughters, but now I totally get it. And I see the issues with it environmentally as well as just the habits that it creates and kind of the mindset that it creates. So I really like your objective of social good aspect, sustainability, supporting the small designers. I think it's really cool. So my question is, your distribution, right now you're selling online, mm-hmm. Is that correct? Okay. And I know that, I guess my question is, do you have plans to sell in boutique stores or any kind of partnerships with distributors or stores that could help you get your message out faster, wider?
Yes, and sort of. To answer your question about, brick and mortar is a really struggling channel right now for a lot of retailers. I do pop-up shops. So whether that be at a particular event for just a single day, I might pop up and have my products available there. Or for the past month and a half, I've been renting space out of a local business here in town where I keep my products available all the time, so they're available for purchase just when people go in, for this other store. But just being me, I do all of this. I do the web design, the product, buying all of it. So my time is limited for running retail, but I really feel that e-commerce is where things are going, and that's much more manageable for a small staff right now to be able to manage.
Well, and that's what I wondered, because I know like Ann Taylor and Macy's, all these retailers are closing stores and filing bankruptcy and all of that. So it sounds like online is the way to go, and it helps you with social media, especially get your message out, very targeted with hashtags.
Yes.
And I love that you're telling the story, and just keep on telling the story and to the very targeted market. I want to later on just connect you with a Toronto-based business. They're doing sustainable capsule wardrobes, subscriptions, and maybe you already know them, but I thought of them when I heard your story, and I just want to connect you with them.
Thank you.
Excellent. Before we get those hands up in the air to start to ask questions, can we thank Sarah for her awesome presentation with our hands? All right, now your hands are warm. Throw them up in the air if you have questions, and we will start here in the center.
Thank you again for your presentation. Learning a lot about this industry. My question's a little bit more sort of on the back end of it. From the e-commerce standpoint, what kind of platform are you using, and how did you sort through that decision?
Well, that has been a bit of a struggle for me since I started. I've had to make several changes as I've kind of worked out the kinks in this process. I actually just this past week rebuilt the website. So if you visit me now, my shop is on the Shopify platform. The reason why I'm really excited about now being on Shopify is out of the 3 different platforms that I've now tried, Shopify provides the most shopping solutions. So for example, when I do my pop-up shops in person, that's not a regular, situation for me to be in. So when I am selling products in person, I need to be able to reconcile those sales against the website. So prior to my migration, I was using Squarespace, which was beautiful and easy, but there was no solutions for in-person sales. So I'd have to keep that on Square, and then I'd have to log into the website and deduct that from inventory. And that's 2 different sales reports at the end of the month, and it gets a little hairy really quickly. So I'm really excited about Shopify because they're very flexible for small businesses such as myself.
I have a question on the left.
Hi there. So I was the sales business manager for a national fashion company and started to get onto the buying side. And he's absolutely right. It's amazing how complex it starts to get when you focus on the supplier side of things. So I'm completely with you. I believe that it is a noble cause and that organizations all across the country are going to have to move towards sustainability, not only for the world, but in order to keep competitive. So one of the things that I'm interested in is as you start to scale, as you educate your customers and begin to ramp up demand because they understand why it's important. When you have individual designers who are hand making a number of their things, they're zero waste, I think that the issue of sustainability becomes once the demand is there, how do they adequately meet that? So while you're scaling your side of the company, are you also doing things in order to help make sure that they can scale appropriately? Do you bring on more designers and have them be trained by your line leaders? How does that side of the business work?
Well, a lot of that is kind of hypothetical right now, but it's the part of the business that I'm actually really, really excited about. There's something so beautiful about somebody who's so passionate about creating a product, and all they want is the validation of knowing that somebody is buying it because they think it's beautiful. So when I do my consignment sales for these startups that are still hand making their products, I actually take a fairly low percentage of that profit so that the designer themselves can retain more of the profit, better than what they would get if they were wholesaling that product, so that they can reinvest that into their businesses. But that's how I counterbalance that by selling wholesale, where my profit margin is slightly higher. And that's with businesses that have already scaled to that next level. So in terms of the small quantity that these startups are able to produce right now, I probably get 6 to 12 emails in a week to 2 week span from these designers all across the country, all wanting to sell their products on my site, because they want that platform. They can make it. They don't know how to get it out there. Or selling one product is hard. People want a selection. So there's no lack of availability in terms of products that I can sell in small batches for these designers.
Here, good luck.
Question on your right.
Hi, Sarah.
Oh, hi.
No worries. So great presentation. A couple quick questions for you. One is pricing. I looked at your website at the pricing, and I gave up buying clothes for women a long time ago. So I had no idea whether that was, is it higher than something that's not sustainable, and is your margin squeezed if it's not higher than something else that's sustainable? And the second quick question is, how easy is it to do a return? I know with clothing, it's one of those things where you want it easy to do a return, maybe it doesn't fit, you don't like how it looks, etc. How easy is it to do a return when you buy something online?
2 wonderful questions. Yes, my price point is higher than non-sustainable merchandise, as I outlined, because of the manufacturing itself and all of that. Typically, my lower priced points are like my t-shirts, which usually start around $38, which is really fairly competitive, particularly with a lot of the shirts that you see people selling around town. I mean, I believe Charlie Hustle sells their t-shirts, which are the Heart Casey, for about $32. And so I think that's pretty fair. They do go up. I think my most expensive product is denim. I sell a brand of jeans called Imogene and Willie. But they sell for a little bit, they're around the same cost as Baldwin. Difference being that they also weave their fabric in the United States and sew in Nashville, Tennessee. So they are fully American made, and those retail around $200 a pair. So it's really just a few dollars difference in terms of cost on the average. And for returns, I offer 14 days for returns, and I realize that can be a little tight comparative to sellers like Zappos or Amazon, but that also trickles back to responsible purchasing. I don't want people, even if I had a ton of product and money were less of an option, I don't want people buying tons of clothes casually. Like, I'm just gonna buy 12 things today, and if I don't like it, I'll just return it. It's very flippant purchasing. So I want people to buy a few things a year that they really love, and if it doesn't fit, that's one thing. But I want people to treat the buying seriously. So I narrowed my return window so that people would be a little more critical before they actually made a purchase.
Question in the center.
Hey, Sarah. This is great. I'm really enjoying listening to you speak. You obviously have such a noble, giving heart. I just want to ask you, I actually worked for a catalog retailer and an online company in product development. And for us, proprietary product was like key. So how are you going to balance this noble cause of expanding awareness for your suppliers, but also make certain that then they don't end up on Amazon or with another retailer? So have you thought about having them do even more proprietary product for you so that they can continue to grow their business, but that you always have some key pieces that don't threaten your business once you get bigger?
Oh, that's a great question. I have thought a lot about doing exclusives through my shop, but right now I don't feel that that is fair to a lot of these startups, because You know, they're trying so hard to grow their businesses, and if they can sell these products, which I believe in personally, then I want people to have access to those products beyond what I'm able to make aware. I think that the better access people have to purchasing sustainable products, the better it's going to be for me as well, because the more people become adjusted to the idea of, oh, I should be looking for these kinds of products, and I should be willing to spend this amount of money on clothing, then once that mentality is there, it makes it easier for all the people like me. You know, people are gonna come to my or they're gonna go to Target and be like, this should cost more money, so I'm not going to buy this, and then they will seek me out. That's my mentality, at least. But I really am trying to create, I'm really trying to support the designers that are doing things responsibly, and I want to empower them to be able to do that, and I feel like making them sell things exclusively through me is kind of counterproductive to that end.
Okay, that's all the time we have. So one last question. What can we as a community do for you?
Man, I really need advice on funding and how to develop my market. So if anybody has thoughts on any of that, I would love to talk to you after.
All right, thank you, Sarah. Next week is presenting by Historical Conquest and Deepwater Software. Hope to see you next week. Thanks, everyone.